When evil walks the streets of Boston, one man lurks in the shadows, shielding the innocent, judging the guilty. That guardian is the Silver Shroud.
What's going on, guys and gals, and welcome to a brand new, highly requested Fallout 4 build. Remember, if you enjoy these Fallout 4 builds and Fallout 4 in general, then subscribe to FudgeMuppet so you don't miss a thing. They'll be having heaps of Fallout 4 videos and new content coming out soon. They've also both got Twitter now and Snapchat, so be sure to check it out in the description if you want to chat. This build is of course based on the fictional Silver Shroud superhero from the Fallout universe, and will definitely play like a superhero, having multiple superpower abilities such as night vision, breathing underwater, and having indestructible bones. He will use stealth proficiency to take enemies by surprise and can also sneak around enemies, planting mines to trap their escape routes. The Silver Shroud gets the drop on criminal scum to weaken their forces greatly before he charges in and blows the evils of the wasteland away in an explosive hellfire. This build plays as a very versatile character and will be an expert with utility skills and combat. He can lockpick and hack his way through anything, and can also use his superhero talents to pacify creatures and people. He can use his stealth to creep up on an enemy and then pacify to stop it from fighting while he dishes out huge amounts of damage to take out the rest and even the odds. The Silver Shroud also doesn't use power armor, but if you have to use it, then of course you can. Remember, as always, there are timestamps in the description to the various sections within this video, so if you want to skip anything or go back to a section to remember information, you can quite easily. Born in Boston, the Silver Shroud wasn't always the hero of the Commonwealth. He was just a child who grew up with a love for superheroes, fast-paced action, and making a difference. He was an avid reader of comic books, and while he loved all superheroes, especially the Unstoppables, it was the Silver Shroud which was above all his absolute favorite. He would tune into every episode of the Silver Shroud on the radio, although eventually when his schooling started to get more serious, he didn't have the same amount of time for constant reading, listening, and even drawing. The boy loved to sketch and was quite artistically gifted. Throughout his schooling years, the Silver Shroud would also take part in community programs to help around his town and improve the lives of other people. It was the right thing to do and it made him feel amazing. Often, if he was alone and in a suburb far away, he would speak to the residents like he was a superhero. And while they found it a bit strange, they were happy to have the guy helping them out. He was crazily into role-playing, and while he was obsessed with the Silver Shroud, he eventually came across a new obsession: a girl. This girl was also doing community work, and the two started dating and ended up getting married early, straight after high school. Similar to the Shroud, the girl loved superheroes, and the two got on extremely well. Eventually, however, the war with China began to worsen, and the Silver Shroud told his lover that he had decided to join the military. She was very understanding and supportive of the Shroud, and knew that he would do anything to make sure that she was safe. He aimed to protect his nation and his family, but after years in service, he realized that the military wasn't exactly what he imagined. War was not noble, and it wasn't worthy of respect. He killed many soldiers over many battles, but he wasn't proud of this. He was just saving the lives of those around him, spilling blood on a field to ensure that it wouldn't happen on his street. Eventually, his term with the military ended, and he headed home known to many as a hero. Regardless of this, he didn't feel like one, and after returning to Boston, he definitely had plans to seek out a new job. After spending some quality time with his wife, Sean was conceived, and the Shroud decided to take life easy for a while to take care of his family. Things became a lot more calm and routine, until unfortunately, as we know, the bombs began to fall, and the Shroud and his family were rushed into Vault 111. We all know what happens next. Now, before I talk about the faction choices and role-playing regarding how this build becomes the Silver Shroud, I'd like to say that I will keep all the faction and big quest storylines super vague. But I will be explaining the factions the Silver Shroud can work with. So if you're unaware of all the joinable factions you can work with in the main storyline and you don't want to know them, you have been warned. Fleeing Vault 111 and entering the Commonwealth, the Silver Shroud is going to desperately search for his son. Deep down, he is devastated, but he is the kind of man who believes heavily in the power of positive thoughts. He will of course spend time upset, but he does his best to stay happy and hopeful. When he decides to focus on something, he simply can't be distracted by his own grief, although he is the kind of guy who is easily distracted by others in need, and he will always put a lending hand forward. He helps others even though he's got his own goals to accomplish, and will meet Preston and help the Minutemen early on in the game. The Silver Shroud goes searching for his son in the wasteland, getting sidetracked by the problems of other people until again he is distracted from his main goal. This time he discovers a comic book store, and loving comics and superheroes, he can't help but go inside looking for some awesome loot. To his delight, the man finds a Silver Shroud costume and decides to try it on. Instantly he's impressed with himself and continues to wear it around the wasteland. Over time, the Silver Shroud starts to act more and more like the fictional superhero he has always loved, and even dedicates much of his time to learning new skills any superhuman would need. The Shroud will also begin role-playing with his own life, and this comes into full force in Good Neighbor within the Silver Shroud quest. As the Silver Shroud begins to do more and more around the wasteland, he becomes a symbol of hope for people of the Commonwealth. He does not hide his identity, and he has no issues walking around in broad daylight in his outfit. He is a Silver Shroud, and he makes a code under which he will operate. The Silver Shroud will never ask for money or for more money, and he will be very noble in all his responses, such as how he deals with rewards. He will always help for the sake of helping, but he does permit the use of threats when he's talking to criminals. After seeing the horrors of the war, he will try to avoid violence when possible, and that also means resolving the situations of other people peacefully. That said, he knows that violence is sometimes a necessary evil that must arise to uphold justice. For example, the Shroud has no problem springing out from the shadows and killing groups of raiders. The Shroud will definitely side with the Minutemen in the main story to help settlers around Boston, and later on, after level 50, you can get all the settlement perks if you want. You can side with the Railroad if you'd like to, but we believe the Silver Shroud would spend his time helping all the inhabitants of the Commonwealth, just like a real Silver Shroud would do. The Silver Shroud will frog splash into the wasteland with 1 strength, 4 perception, 3 endurance, 9 charisma, 6 intelligence, 3 agility, and 2 luck. You're going to be using the special book in charisma to make it 10, and you will of course want to get all the bobbleheads for this character. We've got guides on where to get these bobbleheads and the special book in the description just in case you need them. The Silver Shroud has never had the biggest pec muscles or biceps, but he's always been aware of his surroundings and reasonably sturdy. He's got 9 charisma as he's very convincing and even intimidating at times, and he's a bit of a smarty pants too. He understands how the mind works and how people react and think. He's relatively agile, but is mainly good at keeping quiet, and when it comes to luck, he's not even bothered. It's all skill, baby. Now for some really essential stuff. Let's go over every single perk point this character will allocate all the way up to level 50. As always, perks will be explained up to level 50, and then anything beyond this is up to you. As I said, settlement-based perks would be a nice choice. So looking at the start of the game, this character is going to begin his adventure by getting the Lone Wanderer perk. The Silver Shroud can definitely talk, but he doesn't desire companionship like he used to. He doesn't want to put anyone's life at risk during the dangerous activities he undertakes. At the first rank, this perk will make you take 15% less damage and increase your carry weight by 50 when you don't have a companion. This is really helpful obviously for resistances and also for looting junk to scrap for settlement building. After this, we get the first rank of Scrounger to find more ammo around the wasteland, and any ammo you don't use can be sold for a fantastic price due to the high charisma of this build. The Silver Shroud will then get the Wasteland Whisperer perk, and this gives him a chance to pacify wasteland creatures by aiming his gun at them. This plays into the whole superhuman abilities theme of this build, as the Silver Shroud can now speak to wasteland creatures. Intimidation is the next perk choice we're getting, and this is the same as Wasteland Whisperer, except it's used on humans. Now you can pacify the majority of enemy types in this game, and this benefits the whole avoiding violence playstyle. It also helps you even the playing field when the odds are stacked against you and violence is necessary. At level 6, we're going with Locksmith to open advanced locks to gain access to loot in certain areas, and then at level 7, we're getting the second rank of this to open expert locks for those same reasons. At level 8, we're getting Hacker to find our way into advanced terminals so we can mess with robots and unlock certain rooms. And then just like we did with Locksmith, we're getting the second rank of Hacker to hack expert terminals. Finally, at level 10, we start investing in some damage with the first rank of the Commando perk, and this makes our automatic weapons do 20% more damage. At level 11, we're going to hit 3 doubles in a row and get the second rank of Commando to dish out 40% more damage with our automatic weapons, and also have improved hipfire accuracy. Next up, we've got the second rank of Scrounger to find even more ammo to shoot and sell, and at level 13, it's time for the Silver Shroud to start increasing his crime fighting skill set with Sneak. At the first rank, Sneak will make this build 20% harder to detect, and after this we're investing in Perception, which will make it 6 if you've picked up the Perception bobblehead, which you absolutely should have. Besides having more Perception, we will now be able to get the Night Person perk for +2 intelligence and +2 perception between 6 PM and 6 AM. This is great for leveling up this build and will be best at the next rank. At level 16, we're getting the first rank of Demolitions Expert to allow us to craft explosives at chemistry stations, and also to increase our explosives damage by 25%. This will not only affect our explosive weapons like grenades, but also benefits our main legendary gun, which deals explosive damage. After this, we're getting the second rank of Lone Wanderer to take 30% less damage, which is insanely good, and also have our carry weight increased by 100, all when playing without a companion, of course. After this, we get the second rank of Sneak to be 30% harder to detect and not set off floor-based traps, and then we get the third rank to be 40% harder to detect and make ourselves unable to trigger enemy mines. Finally, at level 20, we get the Bloody Mess perk, and this makes the Silver Shroud deal 5% more damage and be able to blow his enemies into a gory paste. Now, this may seem a bit excessive for someone who doesn't like violence, but we thought it was cool to have for a superhero character. He may not like using violence, but when he must, it should be deadly. Next up, we get the second rank of Bloody Mess to deal 10% more damage with absolutely everything. Then we get the third rank of Commando to do 60% more damage with automatic weapons, and at this rank our hipfire accuracy will be improved even further. The Silver Shroud then gets the third rank of Locksmith, and then the third rank of Hacker, to be able to open master locks and hack master terminals. At level 25 we get Night Person 2, and this will give us +3 intelligence and perception at nighttime, which is even better for leveling. It will also give the Silver Shroud night vision while sneaking, and this helps add to the superpower theme of this build. Next up, we get the fourth rank of Sneak to be 50% harder to detect, and now running no longer adversely affects stealth. Following this at level 27, 28, and 29, the Silver Shroud will add perk points into Endurance to make him a much more sturdy character as we start entering harder sections of the game. Finally, at level 30, your skeleton has been infused with indestructible metal. We're getting Adamantium Skeleton to reduce limb damage by 30%. This again plays into the superhero theme of this character, as our bones will eventually become unbreakable. At level 31, the Silver Shroud is going to be getting Bloody Mess 3 to deal 15% more damage, and then he's going to invest in Scrounger 3 to find even more ammo around the Commonwealth. Remember that you absolutely must sell any of the ammo that you're not using, and do pick up absolutely all ammo types as they are completely weightless. Next up is Demolition Expert rank 2, and this will make you deal 50% more explosives damage and give your grenades a throwing arc. Following this, at level 34 and 35, we're getting the second and third ranks of Adamantium Skeleton, and now the Silver Shroud's limb damage will be eliminated entirely. After this, we get the fourth rank of Commando to gain 80% more automatic weapon damage, and now the Silver Shroud can stop crime in its tracks with a chance to stagger his enemies. Next up, we get an amazing perk in Fallout 4 known as Mr. Sandman, and at the first rank this will make your silenced weapons do an additional 15% sneak attack damage. Keep in mind that your endgame weapon will of course come with a silencer. You also gain the ability to instantly kill a sleeping person with a unique throat-slitting animation, but this isn't really something that the Silver Shroud would want to do. At level 38, we're getting the fifth and final rank of Sneak, and now engaging stealth causes distant enemies to lose you. This is incredibly helpful for vanishing into the shadows when all hell breaks loose, and then finding a new angle to attack from. We're then going to be getting the next rank of Mr. Sandman to make our silenced weapons deal an additional 30% sneak attack damage. And then, at level 40, we're getting the final rank of Lone Wanderer. Just like the last two ranks, this rank is super powerful, and will make the Silver Shroud deal 25% more damage when he's not traveling with a companion. Next up, we've got the third rank of Mr. Sandman, and now our silenced weapons will do a massive additional 50% sneak attack damage. With this build, you're going to want to always use pacification or a sneak attack to begin combat. If violence is called for, sneak attack a group of enemies to gain the really high damage multiplier, and then run in and spray and pray. After this, we're actually going to get the Aquaboy perk, and we'll only be getting the first rank. This will allow us to avoid radiation damage from swimming, and it also lets us breathe underwater, which is another superhero ability this Silver Shroud build will have. Remember, this isn't the fictional Silver Shroud brought to life, it's a man who aims to become his own version of the superhero that he's always loved. You're then going to want the third and fourth ranks of Demolition Expert at levels 43 and 44, and after getting these, your explosives will do double damage. They'll affect a larger area, and mines and grenades shot in vats will now explode for double damage. Also, as I mentioned, this will benefit the weapon we've chosen for this build. At level 45, we're going to get the final rank of Scrounger to find as much ammunition as possible, and then we're actually going to get the first rank of Animal Friend. Now the Silver Shroud can commune with beasts! Just like Intimidation and Wasteland Whisperer, just aim your gun at any animal below your level and gain a chance to pacify it. We only want the first ranks of these perks because forcing people to kill others isn't the Shroud's style, and we've chosen to get Animal Friend later as it's not nearly as important as everything else. It's also a nice extra to have as you never know what dangerous animals you'll find in DLC. At level 47, we're getting the 4th rank of Bloody Mess to make some enemies explode into gore when others explode nearby. Then we're putting a perk point into Endurance to have more health. After this, we're getting the final ranks of Commando to deal double damage with our automatic weapons and have an even greater chance of staggering our enemies. And then finally, at level 50, we're getting another point of Endurance. Now we'll have heaps of Endurance, and the Silver Shroud is not the kind of guy to go down easily. Without any gear, the Silver Shroud's endgame special stats will be 2 Strength, 6 Perception, 9 Endurance, 11 Charisma, 7 Intelligence, 4 Agility, and 3 Luck. Now, let's take a look at the gear. As with a few FudgeMuppet Fallout 4 builds, the gear for the Silver Shroud is pretty straightforward, and won't take too long to explain. So starting off, you're going to want to wear whatever you can find, even the Vault Suit with armor pieces if you'd like to. This is of course only momentarily, as you will be going into Hubris Comics fairly early on and discovering the Silver Shroud costume. This outfit will be worn for the entire game, and if you want to know where Hubris Comics is, then watch FudgeMuppet's Grognak's Axe and costume guide in the description. The Silver Shroud outfit is in the same room. You really can't miss it. To start the Silver Shroud quest after already obtaining the costume, you're going to want to head to the Memory Den in Good Neighbor and talk to a ghoul called Kent Connolly. The costume gives you an additional point of agility and perception, and also makes you take 15% less damage from humans. This works really well with Lone Wanderer. You'll also be using the Silver Shroud hat, which gives you an additional point of perception. But let's talk about the Silver Shroud costume, or should I say armor. The Silver Shroud costume can actually be upgraded, and for this to happen you will need to keep Kent Connolly alive during the quest. Make sure you quick save often, as you may have to try saving him multiple times. Anyways, after you've done this quest, Kent will upgrade your costume and turn it into Silver Shroud armor. Throughout the game, as you level up, you can go back to Kent for more upgrades. If you turn on the Silver Shroud radio in Good Neighbor, he will say he has a very special delivery for the Silver Shroud. At level 45, you get the final upgrade, and this has a damage and energy resistance of 87, while only having a weight of 7. Not bad. The weapons you'll be using at the start of the game will be whatever guns you can find, but after you started to invest into Commando, you're going to want to use automatic weapons as much as possible. You can use any submachine guns you like, even the silver submachine gun, which you'll get during the Silver Shroud quest, but the submachine gun known as Spray and Pray tends to be so much better. This is a legendary silenced SMG with many upgrades, and it does explosive damage. Combined with Mr. Sandman, Demolition Expert, and all the other damage-based perks, this weapon becomes ridiculously powerful. To get this gun, you're going to want to buy it from a trader named Cricket outside Vault 81. If she's not there, sleep in the bed nearby or wait on the chair and she will return. The Silver Shroud is also using grenades and mines that he'll be crafting, and even though he can't craft science-related explosives, he can still find ones like the Cryo Grenade to use anyway. I find using improvised explosives like bottle cap mines and molotovs to be the most fun. When it comes to companions, the Silver Shroud doesn't use any for 2 reasons. The first reason is that he doesn't want to endanger the life of anyone when he doesn't have to, and the second reason is that he doesn't want to get attached to people. He's well aware that any bonds he has could turn into the biggest weakness for villains to exploit, so he tries to avoid them. He already has a bond with his son who he's looking for, and he doesn't need any more vulnerabilities. In regards to settlements, the Silver Shroud will want to help out the Minutemen, but for most of the game he's not really into large-scale construction and having long supply lines. This can all be done after level 50 however, so go nuts if you want to invest into some settlement-based perks. For the first 50 levels, the Silver Shroud will help with building the settlements he can, but his main goal is to help settlers with basic necessities. He will protect them from raiders and super mutants, and even plant crops for them, but he's not going to be building them any massive light box structures. That being said, the sound of a Silver Shroud signal that could be shot into the sky to summon him does sound pretty cool. And that concludes another Fallout 4 build on FudgeMuppet, the Silver Shroud. Remember to subscribe for more Fallout 4 builds because there's plenty coming your way. And don't forget to like this video if you enjoyed it. Share this build on social media if you deem it worthy, and speaking of social media, remember to check out the Twitter and Snapchat of both Michael and Scott in the description below. This build was the Silver Shroud. Thank you for watching, and Scott and Michael will see you all soon. Bye!
Shroud. Don't listen, man. He's a phony. So what's gonna happen is this. I'm going to kill Kent. Then we're gonna shoot the hell out of you. Nothing's gonna be left but paste. Then, I'm going to Good Neighbor and kill every last worthless bastard there and burn the whole thing down. No one screws with Sinjin.
You know what would really get to Kent? Killing his friend, his hero, right in front of him.
Enjoy the show, Kent. After I'm done with the Shroud, you're next.